gentlemen, and welcome back to Film Fragments. I am Bryan Sudfield, your lovely host. We are on episode number 3. On the previous 2 episodes, we covered movie musicals with Jenna Weigart, and on the last episode, coming of age films, we covered coming of age films with Chase Azarian, and those episodes were quite fun to record and everything. So now we're going to dive into a different topic regarding a film studio. It's a pretty big studio. They've released films that have grossed over $1 billion. I wish. I'm just kidding. The film studio is A24. Now, A24 is a very popular independent film distribution company that everybody, all cinephiles, have pretty much jizzed about for the last, I would say, 5 years. And as usual, I'm not alone on this show. Every show is going to have a guest/co-host, and my co-host for this episode is my good buddy, Chase Lee. Chase, how are you, man?
What's going on, man? It's fun to be back. You and I, we did this for your second half of high school bleeding into your first year of college. That's how far we go back.
Yeah, and now I'm going into my 3rd year of college. At the time of this recording, I'm 1 week away from starting my 3rd year of college, which is absolutely crazy because I've known Chase for like 4 to 5 years, and I've known him since I was in high school, and it's like, man, like time evolves. Because let me tell you something. When I first met Chase, first of all, my voice was still extremely high-pitched. I mean, it still is to this day. And also, Chase was very, very, very clean-shaven. And now he has like a full beard like he's in an apocalypse, like he's in dystopian future, and it's quite badass if you ask me. Like I remember when like Chase was starting to grow the beard, and then I saw him with the beard like 3 months later, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is not the kind of Chase Lee thing I would have expected Chase Lee to do.
Yeah, I'm actually auditioning to be a background extra for Duck Dynasty. It's going really well so far. There's no speaking lines, but I will get the part. Trust me, I've been working on it for a year now.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's just great. That's wonderful. And also, speaking of great and wonderful, you know, one of those films is distributed by A24, and could it be on our list? We have no idea. So, I'm just going to give my brief introduction with the studio, then we'll go to Chase, and then obviously we'll go into our list and everything. So, A24 to me, I remember back in the day when it was just very, very small, and a lot of people weren't really well-rounded with the studio. And I was always impressed with how they distributed different kind of films, because the thing is, this studio has released pretty much every kind of film possible. Comedy, drama, romance, action, adventure, like horror. They've released so many different kind of films, thrillers. It's amazing to see a film studio this versatile. And, you know, A24 has really started to grow and grow and grow as the years have gone by. And keep in mind, this company is only 5 years old, and they've already had a lot of Oscars under their belt. I mean, one of their films won Best Picture a few years ago. You know, some of their actors have won acting Oscars and, you know, screenplay awards. And, you know, A24 is just the king right now. It's definitely, without a doubt, in my opinion, the best film studio operating today. And every time they release a film, I get excited, even if it's not the kind of film that I'm interested in watching. I know because it's A24, they're generally smart with their decisions. They've had some missteps, unfortunately, but I mean, what studio, what director, what actor doesn't have their missteps? But for the most part, A24 has released nothing but great stuff. And honestly, like, just looking at the films they have coming out at the time of this recording, like, it's incredible to see the continuously great work that they keep getting from film festivals and all these other actors, directors. It's really, really awesome, honestly. So I could brag on about A24 forever and forever, but I would like to hear Chase's input on it too, because, you know, Chase is from Dallas, and he always gets press screenings. And a lot of these press screenings consist of A24 films, which is very cool and very awesome. He's a lucky motherfucker. But you know what? He loves the studio probably just as much as me, because he's seen, I would say, a lot of them. And it's not that I haven't seen a lot of them. I've seen a lot of them, but I think Chase has seen more because of these press screens that he gets and all these other film festival offers that he gets. So, like, Chase, talk about why you like to jizz so much about A24.
Well, you know, I even if the studio was terrible, I'm always going to remember it because it was actually responsible for my first ever press invite, which was Spring Breakers. And when I saw Spring Breakers back in 2013, I was like, oh, this distribution studio, production studio, they're going to do a couple films and they're going to go bankrupt. It's just the way it goes. But even if their films make very little, I give them respect because they still keep going and they still find new avenues and new films to tackle on in the distribution process. Like you said, they go from romantic comedy from one movie to straight up horror thriller to the next. It's crazy. They're all over the place, but I respect them because they have distributed / produced some of the best films in the past 5 years. And like you said, they're so young that I can't even fathom what their company is going to be like. When you and I are, long and gone, it's just incredible to see the progression of this company, starting from like Spring Breakers and The Spectacular Now, and really trying to make it in their footprint in the industry to, like you said, winning the Best Picture Oscar. I don't think many studios or production companies, distribution companies can gloat on the fact that A24 at that time had only been operating for 3 years. That's insane to me. So, I got to give them props. Just like we said, they might have their missteps every now and then. Two of my favorite studios working out there are A24 and Blumhouse. And guess what? They both have their missteps. They both have their praises. They have their ups and downs. But that's what's so great about watching them kind of blossom into, just a tour de force, if you will, and kind of our line of work. And yes, I am very, very grateful for the reps in Dallas, because there's only one rep company that even gives me invites, and they're responsible. I'm not even joking. For the two big ones are A24 and 20th Century Fox. So I know for a fact I will always get those studio invites. So I thank you for that. And A24 has given us some gems. I love them so much.
Yeah, they continuously throw out great stuff. And the cool thing is with them, I mean, a lot of people may look at the studio as pretentious. And have they thrown out some pretentious work? Yes. Some of their work is overly pretentious, and sometimes that could be a good thing, but also it could be a bad thing. But there are times, and this is great about A24 too, like A24 has released films that are pretty much for anyone, that anyone can enjoy, like A Lady Bird or The Disaster Artist, for example. Like, there are many films that this studio has released that anyone could really enjoy watching. And yes, there are times where they've released films that aren't for everyone, which is kind of a sad thing when you think about it. But you know what? Every filmmaker that works for the studio, they make these films for a certain group of people. And you know what? Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they don't. But you know what? That's what we love about A24. They just are just wonderful, and they constantly throw out great work. And when you look at the stuff that's coming out, like I said, you could tell there's going to be a lot more great stuff. A24's streak of goodness is never going to end. They're always going to throw out good stuff. And sure, from time to time, they might throw out some not so good stuff. But you know what? Every studio does it. Every actor, every filmmaker does it. But I'm just really excited to talk about this. And honestly, I brought on Chase for this because, like I said, Chase has seen so many A24 films. But I don't know if I've met anybody other than Chase who is as passionate about this studio. Because, Chase has a podcast of his own, and every time a trailer comes out for an A24, him and his co-host Joel, they always say, A24, I'm automatically excited. Even if the film doesn't look like my cup of tea, I'm still going to go check it out. Which is, something that I would say too. If A24 releases a film that isn't my cup of tea, I'm always going to give it the benefit of the doubt because I know the studio is very smart with their choices. So I'm very excited to talk about this list. This was not an easy list to make. There are a lot of great films from the studio. And you know what? I am very curious to hear Chase's list. I'm sure he's curious to hear my list. And I cannot wait for the outcome of this. I'm really, really excited to see what films we put on our list. Hopefully, it's funny, when we did a show together called Top 5 Saturdays, and when we did our A24 episode, this was unplanned, and this was kind of ironic. So every film that I had put on my top 5, he put in his top 5 as well, just in different orders, and I thought that was really clever. Will that happen again? I highly doubt it, but you know what? If it happens again, I'm probably going to lose my shit and laugh. I just can't wait. I'm very interested to see if that happens again.
Yeah, it's been a while since we did our podcast, but I remember going over the A24 list in preparation for that episode, and it was really hard to come up with 5 of them. And guess what? It was hard again because A24, just like Blumhouse, pumps out a movie like once a month, so it's like you can't even keep track anymore.
I know, it's crazy.
When I was looking at their Wikipedia page, I was like, oh yeah, all that's come out since then. Like, this is insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you know what? I'm just curious to know what films stayed on our list and what films didn't stay on our list. So the way this is going to work, it's going to be 5 through 1. Chase is going to go first, and I'm going to go first. Now, this was a rule on our podcast when we did it. So obviously, if we have a film on the list and if it's higher, we're going to say pass. Also, the way it's going to work, we're going to say the film, we're going to say what it's about, and then we're going to talk about why we love it and everything. And then, yeah, that's going to be it. So it's going to be really fun. So, Chase Lee, I'm very excited to know what your number 5 favorite A24 film is so far, obviously. And, yeah, just tell us what your number 5 is.
All right, so I'm one of these weird people that likes to go against the grind. I like to surprise people. I like to go against popular opinion. My number 5, I remember seeing it in theaters, and the ending still gives me the heebie-jeebies because I absolutely hate this certain animal, and I would even argue that this might be Denis Villeneuve's best film. I'm going to go with Enemy.
That's my number 5 too.
Oh, perfect. There you go. So we can both talk about it. So, yeah, I remember, like I said, I remember seeing this in theaters, and this actually came out during the infancy of this company. So we actually had no idea, like, if A24 was going to be consistent or whatever. So I remember watching Enemy. I think it was like 3 or 4 films after, like 3 or 4 films within its run of being a company. And I was just absolutely blown away because before that, No. Hold on, Brian. Was Enemy first or was it? No. Prisoners was first, then Enemy, then Sicario. Okay, I keep getting that mixed up.
Yeah.
So I already saw Prisoners, so I already know how Denis Villeneuve works. He really takes these kind of like real life settings and characters and places them in such dark, dreamlike scenarios that just feel so grounded and gritty. It's a really enthralling experience no matter what film he does, whether it be a Blade Runner, Sicario, this or Prisoners. But the reason why I like Enemy so much is because it's very short, sweet, and to the point. There's no fat on it. It's a very lean movie. It's only like 90 minutes long. It's a very quick movie. Jake Gyllenhaal's character is very paranoid. He sees, he's a professor. And so when he's at a video rental store and he picks up a movie, he realizes there's a movie star that looks exactly like him. And so he's very paranoid and very determined to find out who is this person. And so we kind of go down this rabbit hole of maybe he's leading a double life. Maybe he has 2 wives. We have no idea what's happening. I think that's where the mystery is kind of really airtight. There's nothing wasted. Denis Villeneuve knows what this movie is. He goes in right as it starts, and then it just goes all the way until the very end, which at the very end, if you have no idea what the symbolism is, you will be very confused. And if you go online and you kind of research it, it's actually kind of clever. The specific animal that they use throughout the entire movie, but just cinematography-wise, it's very, like I said, very dreamlike. It feels like an other world, but also feels kind of grounded. It's definitely one to be remembered, and it's definitely one of the shortest ones A24 has released. And Jake Gyllenhaal in double performance, folks. I mean, if you love Jakey G, the guy does 2 roles and he just kills it in both. It is definitely one that's underrated, and I don't like using that word lightly because I think people use it too often. I think this movie is underrated because hardly anyone ever talks about it in the A24 frame, in Denis Villeneuve frame, or a Jake Gyllenhaal frame. It's definitely a little treasure.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I remember when I saw Prisoners, and I was really impressed with Denis' work, and I'm like, I gotta see whatever else this guy does. And then when I found out that his next film was a film with Jake Gyllenhaal, that he actually shot it before Prisoners, but they both premiered at TIFF the same year. I remember reading about it, And when this movie, I didn't get a chance to watch this in theaters. It didn't play around me. The thing is, with me and A24 films, there was a point where a lot of them didn't play around me, and they would take forever to come to my area, because in New Jersey, unfortunately, they don't like to show A24 films. I don't know why, but now they're starting to expand them and release them in more theaters, which is awesome for me, so I don't have to travel, like 50 minutes to just watch one film. And yeah, I remember watching it, and Jake Gyllenhaal is one of my favorite actors. Him playing two characters alone just got me excited, and the concept of it was brilliant too. I love how like you said, it's very short. There's no fat to it. It just goes, and then it.
Well, and I forgot to mention this. It's a very modern Hitchcock film.
It is a modern Hitchcock film. If Hitchcock were alive today, I think he would be very proud of this film. Like hands down, he would be so ecstatic with what Villeneuve brought to the screen. And yeah, that the animal that they have in this movie, I'm not a fan of them either. And the fact that they were heavily used in the movie, then they were in basically the last shot of the movie, I'm just like, oh fuck, what the hell, Denis? And it did take me a while to understand the movie. I did look online and I read some stuff, and I was like, that is pretty unique and pretty clever. And you know what? The fact that a lot of people don't talk about this, whether it be in regards to A24, Denis Villeneuve, or even Jake Gyllenhaal, is really baffling to me, because this is one of the more unique films that all of them have attached their names to. And I think it should get more recognition. Like, I agree with you. The term underrated is used pretty often, and some people use it in the wrong way, but this truly is an underrated piece of filmmaking. And like I go to school for filmmaking, Chase went to school for filmmaking, so we both understand what goes into this stuff. And the fact that it just wasn't appreciated, like, I understand that it may not be on the levels of like Prisoners or Sicario or Arrival or Blade Runner, but all 5 of these films that he has attached his name to, I think are pretty incredible. All 5 of them equally are great. I haven't seen the foreign film they did, and I feel bad for saying that, but everything he's done is remarkable, and he continuously shows that how great of a filmmaker he is. I would love for him to do another A24 feature. I feel like now, because he's so big, he probably won't do it. I mean, for goodness sakes, the guy was nominated for an Oscar for Arrival, and he directed the sequel to one of the most influential sci-fi films of all time. Just think about that for a second, guys. So I don't know if this guy will ever come back to A24. I hope Jake Gyllenhaal does something else with A24 down the road. And yeah, it's definitely one of the more unique films in their catalog, and all of their catalogs, and I think more people should check it out. It's not for everybody. People are going to be thrown off by it, obviously. But, if you love filmmaking, if you love Jake Gyllenhaal, Denis Villeneuve, you should definitely check this out. And it's on Netflix as of this recording. So do yourself a favor and check it out. Thank you. And, yep, that's why it's our number 5.
Yeah, so you just want me to go in number 4?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right, so my number 4 is actually one of the... I don't want to say that because it'll, I guess, kind of ruin it, but... never mind. I'll just say it's one of the more lighter fares on my list compared to everything else. And that would be the second press screening I ever went to / second A24 film, The Spectacular Now. It's by far my favorite coming of age film, romance film they have done. Well, one of my favorite romance films they have done so far, and I am a huge sucker for, like I said, anything coming of age, high school, relationships. It's stuff that we can all kind of, grasp around. I hate using the word relatable because, once again, everyone uses that, but it's stuff that we can kind of look into ourselves and be like, we have been through these scenarios, we have had relationships like this, whether they be romantic or friendship level. We have all been there. It's a very sweet film. It's a very heartbreaking film. Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley, wonderful chemistry. They've always had wonderful chemistry, even in the crappy Divergent movies. They know how to play to each other's strengths. They're very, very sweet together on screen. They can explode at each other at any moment. It's really enthralling to watch their relationship go through the ups and downs of high school, and seeing Miles Teller be kind of this one-minded person where he's got a job, he thinks he's got it made, and then life happens. He gets fired, and how does he react to it? He goes into a spiral, and Shailene Woodley is there to help pick him up, even though that relationship might be toxic in the future. And it's really interesting to see this type of perspective on a high school relationship. Usually high school movies are very, charming and sweet, and there's really nothing to them, but this has a lot more depth than you would think it would.
And a lot more realism, too.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it's different from Miles Teller's character, which we hardly ever see in movies, to where, like I said, he's already got a job, he thinks he's set, he doesn't need to go to college, and, then, of course, life spins around. And also, I really like Kyle Chandler in the movie as well. A nice little supporting role.
Yeah, he was great.
As Miles' dad. It's just a really good... it's a great coming-of-age tale, a great high school romance, and it was my first kind of trusting film in Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley, where I saw it and I was like, I will watch anything with them two in it, even if it looks as bad as Divergent, I will still give it a chance, because they sold me on this film in particular, and it's directed by James Ponsoldt. And for the longest time, he was my go-to guy. I was like, oh man, I can't wait to see what this guy did. And what he do next? Because I'm kind of
he did the
right
end.
now.
He did the end of the tour.
That's right,
which was also A24.
Which was also A24. That's actually the first film where I met Joel, our friend. So I forgot he did that one. But Spectacular Now. I would totally recommend it if you're into coming of age romance films. It's definitely not one to miss.
Yeah, this was a really close second to make it my top 5. I absolutely adore The Spectacular Now. It's definitely one of my favorite coming-of-age films as well. Coming-of-age is my favorite genre, so usually if I see a film in this genre that sucks, I get very, very disappointed.
Joel's the same way. I mean, because every time when a coming-of-age film comes on, I'm like, all right, he's either gonna love it or hate it. There's really no middle ground, and that's why.
There's rarely any middle ground when it comes to me watching coming of age films, and this one was so incredible. I remember seeing the trailer for it, and I was blown away. I was like, I had already loved Shailene Woodley because she was in The Descendants with George Clooney. That's a great film if anyone hasn't watched it. And Miles Teller at the time, a lot of people weren't really into him. I wasn't either. I wasn't really impressed with what he was doing. But I'm like, you know what? Maybe if these reviews are correct, maybe he is awesome. And the thing is with me, when it comes to someone playing a character that battles alcoholism, it's very difficult for someone to portray that very, very well. And Miles Teller did it so powerful. Like, it was a powerful portrayal of someone battling alcoholism. And keep in mind, he was a teenager. Like, that's the crazy thing too. He was a high school teen, and he was an alcoholic. And it was absolutely heartbreaking.
Scene is heartbreaking when he
absolutely
finally breaks
heartbreaking.
Down.
Yeah, when he breaks down to his mom, played brilliantly by Jennifer Jason Leigh. It's really beautiful, and it's very real, and it's raw and powerful, and I really admire that with what James Ponsoldt put into his direction. And Shailene Woodley was so adorable in this movie, and she was basically his cure. Like, she was helping him out throughout the entire movie, and even though, like you said, the relationship was toxic at times, like, it was a really real relationship, and I admire that so much. I mean, the movie makes me laugh, it makes me cry, and I adore it to death. I really wish I put it on my top 5. It was very close to making it, and I've always adored the movie, and it's another one that's on Netflix. A lot of A24 films are currently on Netflix, like pre-2016, and then the ones that are 2016 and post, they're on Amazon Prime. And this one is definitely a must-watch. If you love coming-of-age films, this is obviously a must-watch. This is definitely one of A24's most normal movies, if that makes sense. It's not one of their pretentious projects, but you know what? It's great, and everyone should definitely check this out. And yeah, James Ponsoldt, he is no stranger to A24, because then he made The End of the Tour, which is unfortunately also not on my list, but it's a fantastic film. Jason Segel, Jesse Eisenberg, just great film. And unfortunately, the film he made after that was not good. The Circle, that was an abomination to literally everything. Like, that was just so bad. It should have been good, but it was not. But you know what? The Spectacular Now, at least we have that to remember him by. It's an excellent film. I really wish I put it on my list, but I just couldn't. So my number 4 is one of A24 films from this year, 2018 to be exact. And this is currently my favorite film of the year. It's funny because my top 2 films of the year so far are both distributed by A24, and I remember going to see this movie at a film festival, and I remember I interviewed someone involved with the film, and they said I was going to feel depressed during and after the film. And I said, okay, I don't know if I could believe you, man, but all right. And then the movie begins. I wasn't feeling depressed. And then something happens 20 minutes into it, and I'm like, you motherfucker, I feel depressed. My number 4 is First Reformed. And this film comes from Paul Schrader. This man is very well known for writing a lot of critically acclaimed films, particularly under the direction of Martin Scorsese, such as Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, and The Last Temptation of Christ. He's also directed a few other films too, but this is the first time I've seen him directing, and I was absolutely riveted from start to finish. Now, the person I had interviewed was Ethan Hawke, actually, who is the lead in this film, and I remember him just like so excited about how he got to work with Paul Schrader and, you know, Amanda Seyfried and Cedric the Entertainer, who's credited as Cedric Kyles in this movie, by the way. Just he's not credited as Cedric the Entertainer, he's credited as Cedric Kyles, which was very weird for me to see, but you know what? That's pretty awesome. So this film follows Ethan Hawke. He's a priest, or like, yeah, it's a reverend priest, something like that, right, Chase?
Yeah.
And he's a very troubled individual. He is, I mean, if you look at all the characters that have been in films so far this year, this is hands down one of the most troubled characters of the whole year. And you know what? Ethan Hawke gave, in my opinion, and this is so far, obviously, we have so many more films coming out throughout the year that might top this. Ethan Hawke's performance is my favorite performance of the year so far. I honestly think he needs to be nominated for Best Actor. Hell, if he were to win, I would be so happy with that. This is a performance that is one for the books. He's always been one of my favorite actors. I've always admired his acting skills in all the movies. I mean, when you look at him from the start of his career in that little film Explorers, and then he did Dead Poets Society with Robin Williams, and then he did a bunch of other movies, Reality Bites, and then you get into all the stuff he did with Richard Linklater, the Before trilogy, Boyhood, all these other films. And he's just a talent to be recognized. He's one of the more underappreciated actors, I feel like. I mean, a lot of people like him. A lot of people know who he is, but he never gets the recognition that he deserves. And this performance definitely needs the recognition, because this is a guy, his character is, he's going through a lot, but things start to escalate very quickly when this environmentalist and his wife, the wife is played by Amanda Seyfried, come in and basically talk to Ethan Hawke's character about something. I'm not going to spoil it because, you know, this movie's still fresh. Only came out a few months ago, and a lot of people still haven't seen it, which is totally fine, but they should definitely check it out. And it's a slow burn. It has probably the most static camera work I've ever seen in my life. There's not many sequences where the camera moves. Obviously, it cuts to a different scene, but it doesn't move, which was really impressive and, you know, could be a little tedious to people who are impatient, and I thought it was just a riveting film. Just, in my opinion, it's the best of the year so far, and I heavily admired the filmmaking choices that went into this. I love when filmmakers make films. This is a film, this is not a movie, this is a film. And for people who saw First Reformed, they know what I'm talking about. That ending was absolutely insane. You know, the last 10 minutes of this movie are going to leave you speechless. It's going to leave you speechless. The cinematography will also leave you breathless. I mean, this film is so gorgeous looking, but it's also so fucking bleak. I love it so much how it combines those elements. I adore it. I love the score. I love the editing, the script. The dialogue is so fucking good. This character is so well realized. You know, the fact that we have a character like this so well fleshed out, it was incredible. I felt for him, even though at the same time I was not feeling for him. And, you know, the movie made me not look at Pepto-Bismol the same way. After I saw this movie, I'm like, I don't think I ever want to look at Pepto-Bismol ever again. And I'm not going to spoil why, and people are going to be like, that's a ridiculous thing to say. Believe me, it's not if you've seen the movie. And yeah, First Reformed is absolutely phenomenal. I wanted to put it on the list because I kind of wanted to acknowledge my love for it. And also, it is kind of now one of my favorite A24 films. Absolutely fantastic. Not a film for everybody, but it's pretty special. I loved it so much. It's my number 4.
I mean, yeah, it's a good pick. I know our friend Joel, that's his favorite film of the year so far. And, you know, we're almost reaching September. I have a funny story about First Reformed, because I saw First Reformed and another A24 film, 8th Grade. It's not on my list, but I saw it at the same festival this year, and we were watching First Reformed, and it was the last film of my first day. And I remember the movie cut out like halfway in between after the park snow scene. Bryan knows what I'm talking about. It cut out right after that. Oh, boy. So it took 10 minutes to get the projector back up and start again. I was like, man, what a weird place to end because that's really dark. So, First Reformed is a really great one. Ethan Hawke, a very, very complex performance where you think he's just going to be a one-note priest, but the guy's got so many demons, pun intended, inside that he's trying to fight. And when he finds out about certain things that are happening to the environment or even the other churches that are competing with him, it just gets to him. And he is an alcoholic in the movie, and that's something also you don't really see that much, or alcoholic priests really trying to numb the pain that he's trying to get out of him. And it's just a really great performance, really great 4x3 type of cinematography.
Yeah, and A24 is no stranger to 4x3. They've released a lot of films lately in that format, and they're releasing a lot more films like that. We'll touch upon them later on when we talk about their upcoming releases. And I just really love how, like, I agree with you. It's like whenever we see a priest or a reverend or someone involved with churches and religious stuff in films, you never see like the troubled ones all that much, but this is a very good depiction of a troubled individual, and with the alcoholism, and you kind of get where he's coming from, because he's like, even once the movie begins and then you learn about his past, he is a very troubled individual, and a lot of bad stuff has happened to him. I'm not going to spoil it, obviously, for people who haven't seen it, but you get where he's coming from, but at the same time, you're just against the fact that he's doing what he's doing, and it's really harrowing and to watch, and sometimes it feels very real when you watch it sometimes, and oh, God, I just can't stop thinking about it, because there's a lot of sequences in this movie that I just couldn't stop thinking about when I saw it at the film festival, and then Paul Schrader was at my screening, and I don't want to spoil it. It's hard, like, I'm not going to spoil anything, but, like, he asked a question to the audience regarding the ending, and I'm not going to spoil the question, but a lot of people raised their hands to it, and then he was like, honestly, I don't know the answer to that question either, and when you find out what I'm talking about, when you see this movie, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, there's several theories online about what the ending actually is, whether this certain event, the climax of the film, actually happened or not. I mean, an argument can be made towards both, but that's a great pick, man, and I can't wait. I was telling my girlfriend this. I was telling Joel this. I cannot wait to get the A24 package this year at the end of the year, because it's going to have so many good ones, including First Reform, 8th Grade, and my number 3 pick. Now, I said this in my review. I stick by it, and I hope film historians find the Film Fragments episode over A24 when I say this 100 years from now. This is going to become a cult classic. This is going to be one of the best in the horror genre. I'm talking when we get 50, 60 years from now, this is going to be on the same level as An Exorcist. You can mark my words on it. And it's one of the best directorial debuts this year, because there's many directorial debuts this year.
Yes.
But this is going to be Ari Aster's Hereditary. My God, I know. Bryan's doing the climax of the movie, and it still freaks me out. I can't wait to rewatch that again, by the way.
Me too.
It's the type of horror film that is a slow burn. It takes its time. It seeps in this type of drama horror into your veins and does not let go. It has some of the best cinematography of the year, really utilizing miniature cinematography. And what do I mean by that? There is a dollhouse type of effect on the cinematography, which makes sense because Toni Collette's character makes miniatures, and so Ari basically emulates that into the cinematography, and it's really confined yet kind of delicate and very dollhouse-like, to where it's really creepy how he utilizes focal lengths in his shots. And there's one shot in the middle of the movie with Alex Wolff and Toni Collette in his bedroom, I still think about it to this day, and it still freaks me
Oh,
out.
same.
Yeah,
Same.
it's there's actually 2 scenes in his room that freak me out, but Bryan knows which one I'm talking about, because I remember when it played in the theater, and people were like, they were nervously laughing, which makes sense because I was freaked out. I was like, is it like, do people see this? Do they see what's happening? Not only that, it's a really unpredictable horror film. When it starts, you have no idea where it's going, and by the time it gets to the end, it is so shocking, because you're like, wow, I did not see that coming, and you know what? I am creeped and disturbed by what just happened. And a couple things, and I'll wrap up. The music is outstanding, really kind of has this really creepy John Carpenter vibe. I really appreciated that.
Yes.
And
yeah,
I'm going to say something also controversial, while also making one of the best horror films in this genre period. Toni Collette is very, very, very good in this movie. I actually think Alex Wolff is better, and he gives the performance of the movie. Now, everyone does a fantastic job, but everyone keeps saying Toni Collette is amazing in this film. I can't dispute that. But people shoving Alex off to the side as if he didn't do anything is completely BS. The car scene alone will convince you that Alex Wolff is a fantastic actor in this, and even in the classroom when he bangs his head on the desk.
The classroom.
Like,
oh my God.
he convinced me. He convinced me there was someone in that room. And it's incredible acting, and I think for a directorial debut, I think what Ari did was nothing short of spectacular. I honestly, it's one of those films to where I don't really find any problems with it. Now, maybe I will once I rewatch it, but on the first viewing, it's one of those A films where you go, that's going to stand the test of time, and I will stand by that.
Yeah, Hereditary is actually my second favorite film of the year so far. If First Reformed did not come out, this would be my number one. And the thing is, for me, I've started to appreciate horror films a lot more than I thought I ever would. Like, Chase is a huge horror fanatic. I like horror movies. I enjoy them from time to time, but the movie has to be really good to win me over, because I've started to like a lot more horror films in the last few years. And you know, when A24 distributes them, they're mostly good. And this one is fantastic. I saw this film twice, which I did not expect to see. I saw the film twice because when I saw it opening night with one of my best friends at home. And it was like a 10:30 show, and it was super late, so it was probably not the best time to watch this, but also it was at the same time. It was Pat's Theater, you know, a lot of people walked out saying, this movie was fucking trash. And me and my friend were like, this was great. Are you fucking crazy? You know, because people can't appreciate films like this, and it really ticks me the fuck off. But you know what? It's whatever. It's whatever. Because, you know, at least there's some audience that is so passionate about films like Hereditary, and this film is great. And you know what? I loved Alex Wolff in this. You know, it's crazy for me to believe that he was in this because, first of all, I had no idea he was even in this. I didn't watch any trailers going into this movie. And the fact that he was in it, because people my age will remember him, as well as his brother Nat, from Nickelodeon's The Naked Brothers Band. And, you know, I never thought those two would even go anywhere after that stuff. But, you know, Alex Wolff has really shown himself to be a pretty talented actor outside that stuff. You know, he was one of the Boston Bombers at Patriots Day, which he was great in. He was in Jumanji, and the role was pretty small. He was the human character that transforms into The Rock. And it was a nice little addition, but he was absolutely riveting in this film. Like you said, the classroom scene, the bedroom scene, pretty much every scene, the car scene with Alex Wolff, he was unbelievable.
Well, and I also want to say, like, to kind of go along with his performance is the introduction of Millie Shapiro. She was great as the sister. So good. Yeah.
Very terrifying performance, but she was very good in her respective role.
Yeah, usually children are hit or miss when it comes to acting, but oh my god, she sold it, man! Like she did. She was great. Pure eeriness of that character.
She was great. Like she was absolutely terrific and mesmerizing. And back to Alex Wolff. I mean, he was fantastic. But yeah, I agree. Toni Collette. Now that's my favorite actress performance of the year so far, and honestly, she needs to get nominated for Best Actress. Now, if Alex Wolff doesn't get any recognition, it will be kind of sad. He should get some kind of Best Supporting Actor recognition for this, but Toni Collette will probably get something. Hopefully. Will it happen? I can't say anything just yet. I mean, there's a lot of films coming out where, like, an actress might get nominated, like a Viola Davis for Widows, or Lady Gaga for A Star Is Born. There's a lot of stuff coming out, and you know what? If those performances are top notch compared to Toni Collette, and Toni Collette doesn't get nominated, you know, it is what it is. Toni Collette does have an Oscar nomination under her belt, but she should get some recognition for this. I agree with you. Whenever a director makes their debut, it could go either way. You never know how it's gonna go. But this Ari Aster guy, I was so impressed with what he was able to do. The film was unpredictable, like you said. It's a slow burn. It's very well, okay, say it's relaxing is very, very crazy for me to say, but compared to the last 15 to 20 minutes of this movie, the first hour or so is relaxing compared to that. The last 20 minutes is where it goes absolutely bonkers, and you know what? I loved it. A lot of people were thrown off by the ending. A lot of people were thrown off by the twist, and you know what? I totally understand that. The twist, when I first saw the movie, it definitely threw me off a bit, but I was still like, okay, I kind of loved it. Then I saw it the second time, and I'm like, oh yeah, I think it's great. I don't care what people say, the twist is amazing. The entire film is shot beautifully, it's written beautifully, it's directed so well, the acting's terrific, the music is great, everything about Hereditary is great. I'm glad I got to see it 2 times. I'm glad I was out in theaters longer than I thought it would be, because generally these A24 films aren't out in theaters for too long, but this one was out for a fairly long period of time, which is awesome, even though if everyone didn't like it, I'm still glad that people got a chance to go see it, and it's great. And you know, Ari Aster is actually currently filming his follow-up to Hereditary, which is actually being distributed by A24, which is awesome. I don't even know what it's about, and you know what? I don't care, because I'm going to go see it, because I was so impressed with Hereditary. I really wanted to put it on the list, but I decided to go. If I were to put a 2018 movie, I was going to put the one that I liked more than Hereditary, but that being said, they're equally great, first performed in Hereditary for me. So yeah, it's great that you got to put it on your list. So my number 3 is a film that came out last year. Now, A24 had a lot of acclaimed work that came out last year. A lot of great stuff that came out last year. But there was one film in particular that was very, very acclaimed, and it didn't get any recognition from anything. My number 3 is Good Time.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's so fucking good. I remember seeing it. I did a double feature that day. It was one of my favorite double features. I saw that, and then I saw Wind River, and that was a very, very powerful double feature for me. Now, Good Time, for people who don't know what this is about. So Robert Pattinson plays this guy. His name is Connie Nix, and he has a mentally challenged brother. Now, the brother gets in trouble, and basically Robert Pattinson has to go save him. It takes place in one night. It kind of reminded me a bit of Collateral, where it took place in the course of one shitty guy's night, and it was beautifully executed. This was directed by the Safdie brothers, and ironically, Benny Safdie, one of the brothers, actually played the mentally deformed brother, and he was unbelievable. He was incredible, like just incredible. But this film, and I know there have been other films before this that have showed this, but this film was the true example of Robert Pattinson being a good actor. Actually, no, let me rephrase that. A great actor. He was so fucking mesmerizing in this film. You know, this performance should have been nominated for Best Actor. Out of all the Best Actor nominees, I would have said taken out heavily make-upped Gary Oldman and put in Robert Pattinson. And there were many other performances that could have been recognized, like Hugh Jackman for Logan or James Franco for Disaster Artist. But this performance should have gotten a lot more recognition. It honestly was an Oscar-worthy performance. Like, this performance kind of mesmerized me. It kind of mirrored, like, younger Robert De Niro, actually. Like, it kind of gave me vibes of, like, his, like, former days, like, in the 70s when he was, like, in Mean Streets and Godfather 2 and Taxi Driver. Like, it was those kinds of performances. And, you know, Robert Pattinson, his character is very unlikable. But you just kind of root for him the whole way, because you know deep down he is kind of a good guy, but at the same time, he's not a good guy. You know, he just wants to help his brother, and, you know, that's always an awesome thing. But, you know, the stuff that he does throughout this movie is insane. One thing that should have been recognized, well, actually, there's many things. One, the cinematography. This was shot on 35mm film. It was absolutely beautiful. Just really great nightlife in New York. The score. oh my god, the score was very electronic and it had a lot of energy to it, and it was very terrifying. Like, I remember when I saw the movie, I couldn't breathe after a while. My heart was beating so fast because of this score. Like, my favorite aspect of the score was the hospital scene. That hospital scene with the score, it starts off slow, then starts getting louder and louder and louder and louder and louder and louder, and you're just like, fuck, stop, like, take it down a notch, like, let's relax for a second. But it's just, the film is just so goddamn great. And, you know, even though good time may not be a good time in terms of being happy, it was a very good time to watch. And, you know, I wanted to see the movie again when it was in theaters, but it was only at my theater for 1 week. This was when I was working at a movie theater at the time. This was last summer, and all the coworkers I know that saw the movie, they all loved it, and I didn't think they would. So I was very impressed with that. And, you know, Robert Pattinson's character does some things that aren't, like, there's one involving him in a certain character. I'm not going to say who, but when you see it, it takes place in this person's house. And let me tell you something, when I saw it, my jaw dropped. I was like, oh my god, this is actually happening. What the fuck? And then it's just, the ending is insane. This film is absolutely unpredictable. It's so riveting. The fact that this one didn't get any recognition at all, it really ticks me off. And like I said, A24 had a lot of other great films that came out that year, like Lady Bird, The Disaster Artist. Those films were great. They were awesome. But Good Time, it was there. Like, it was like the perfect film to get recognition. The fact that it didn't, it really ticks me off, and it still does to this day. So for people who haven't seen it, please check it out. It's honestly like in my top 100 favorite films now. I think it's gonna go up the more I watch it. Like, it's incredible. And if you haven't seen it, just please do yourself a favor and check it out. And if you still believe Robert Pattinson cannot act, check out this film and you'll be proven wrong, because him and Kristen Stewart are way past their twilight days. They both can act. They're both great. I don't know where the fuck Taylor Lautner is, but you know what? I don't give a fuck about him. He can make Shark Boy and Lava Girl Part 2 if he wants to. I don't care. So, Good Time is my number 3.
Yeah, it's one of these films that it just knocks you in the face because of how electric it is. Like you said, it follows the course of someone trying to help their brother over one night, and his luck just keeps getting shittier and shittier. And you, for some weird reason, even though this guy has tons of fault, you know that deep down he loves his brother and he's trying to do the right thing, even though he does some shady things. But what's so great about it is the way it is directed and edited. It is just a non-stop thrill ride, paired with the energetic music, like you said, paired with the kind of like sweaty, grimy nightlife photography of the city. You can definitely feel these people sweat in every single frame, like they feel like they're on a real city block. And then on top of all that, I have seen a lot of Robert Pattinson post-Twilight. The guy is a great actor, and I will go down and say this. I will say a bold statement once again. This is the best thing he's done since that franchise. Like, literally the best thing he's done. And I know a lot of people might say, oh, what about when he works with, like, Cronenberg, or what about The Rover, or what about, which is also A24, you know, what about, you know, Lost City of Z, what about all these other, it's like, these are good movies. But this is the best thing he has done, and Bryan is right. All these people they have this weird notion that if you did a really crappy franchise like almost 10 years ago, then you're automatically bad forever. No. Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson are great actors. I don't care what anyone says. They can fight me on it. They're actually two of the best working today. And Good Time is just another example as to how good Pattinson is, and I think it's the best thing he has done, hands down, to this date. So, yeah, that's a good pick. And when I'm going to be honest with you, because I'm looking at all my my screeners from last year. When I got the A24 package, I was most excited about seeing that one in the package, because out of all of them, between that and The Killing of the Sacred Deer, those were my favorite ones. So I was like, I cannot wait to rewatch these. So yeah, that's a great pick. So I'm gonna go a little old school for my second pick.
Okay.
I remember getting the screening invite for this, and
Yeah.
I went to it, and I remember because usually when these reps like send you the invite, they send you production notes, so that way, like, if you want to know how to pronounce the director's name, actors, all that stuff, that's typical fare. When we got there, they had a little package, like a little booklet. And I was like, oh, what is this? And so you flip through it, and it's the director trying to not, like, spoon-feed us and tell us what the movie's about, but just be like, hey, there's a lot of, like, these themes in here, and this is what I was going for. Almost like the stories I was hearing last year at TIFF on how Darren Aronofsky sent, like, a book for Mother before the screenings. It wasn't anything like that, but when I got the booklet, I obviously didn't read it because I watched the movie. And when I walked out, I was like, wow, this is going to be one of these movies that not only I will always remember this actress by, but also it's going to be one of those movies that no one's going to talk about, no one's going to ever bring up, and I'm so glad to be a part of this exclusive, like, club, knowing that I have seen this, and I will claim that it's one of the best sci-fi horror movies I've seen in a while. It's also, because as much as I like Hereditary, I even like The Witch, and I like some of the other horror that A24 has done, Under the Skin is the best horror film they've ever done. Period. And it's still,
you know what? I agree with you. It is the best horror film that they've ever done.
It's
not on my list, unfortunately, but you could talk about it first.
Yeah, it's one of those things to where, like, you know, like Hereditary is really great drama horror, like family horror, where it deals with family problems. Under the Skin takes a science fiction concept and applies it to the real world and makes it surreal at the same time. It's an absolute incredible mixture. So what is this one about? Scarlett Johansson gets into human skin, or, you know, kind of emulates human skin, and she's an alien. She walks amongst Earth, and she gets people to, well, we don't actually know what it is, but they go into this black void, and then they get all the meat and guts sucked out of them, and then their skin's kind of tossed to the side, and we see this meat kind of go on this conveyor belt into this kind of black hole. We don't know if it's for fuel for the ship, or if it's, you know, fuel for, like, food or whatever. We just don't know. And so she has, like, a supervisor, like an alien supervisor, going, you need to get people, we need the meat or whatever. And when she starts out in the movie, she is cold. She is desolate. She takes no for an answer. She will kill at the drop of a hat. She meets a gentleman who, Bryan, what's the condition called? Is it like elephantitis or something like that?
I think it's something like that.
Something like that, where there's, like, enlarged parts on the body, and particularly this person's face, to where it is deformed, and so he thinks that, you know, he is ugly, society does not like him, and, you know, Scarlett Johansson's character is like, well, I don't know what beauty is, that's not, I don't know what that is, I see you as a person. And so there's a lot of, you know, kind of these, like, real life themes that this movie deals with, whether it be, you know, people from different countries, or, you know, coming into other countries, you know, learning how to be human, learning how to be empathetic. And, you know, over the course of the movie, she starts to have feelings for people, and not wanting to kill them for their meat, but also to love and, you know, to be friends with, and to actually have human connections. And when she also sees the bad side of humanity, because there's a person that tries to rape her, and so she starts crying. And so at this point, you know, she does something to herself because she can't live anymore. And it's one of those films that it takes this premise of an alien coming to Earth, but this alien becomes so much of a human that it experiences human emotions, and realizes there's good and bad to humanity, and it's such a great allegory for that. And on top of all that, it's got a fantastic, eerie score to kind of go along with it. The cinematography is gorgeous. A lot of people compare it to like Kubrick type of cinematography. A lot of long shots, a lot of wonderful wides and tracking shots, and I would actually agree with that. This movie is like a good mixture of like a Kubrick and like a Lynch film. Which is not a bad thing at all. And Jonathan Glazer, I think, adapted this book and made it his own and made it into this like surreal nightmare of a movie that holds up. And I still think to this day this is the best. Not only is it the best movie, but probably the best performance that Scarlett Johansson has ever given.
I agree.
I think that she is a capable actress. I think she's a good actress. I've never seen her great. This is the movie where she is great. And this is the movie I will always remember her for. Even if she tops this movie, I will always remember the time I was blown away by her vulnerability and her just raw talent in Under the Skin. It is by far, I think it's actually Joel's favorite film of 2013. And, I totally agree with, I said The Spectacular Now is my favorite, but I would put Under the Skin as my second favorite that year. But Under the Skin is just it's a powerful, kind of abstract type of movie that it doesn't spoon feed you. It takes its time. It gives you the puzzle pieces, and you have to put that puzzle together in your mind. And by the end of it, it's just it just reminds you how crappy humanity is. But it's a really great one. And if you want to take a chance on obscure films, stuff that you would probably really never see or even pay money to see, take a chance on this one. You might not like it. That's cool. It's understandable, but I would recommend this if you're looking for like just a weird movie that a weird unconventional movie that's not like a traditional Hollywood movie. It's I don't know the cinema score for it, but I know that Hereditary got a D+ cinema score. I'll guarantee you this one would have gotten the same grade. But that means it's good. Under the Skin, quite an achievement on A24 side, Scarlett Johansson side, and just in the horror genre, it's really great.
Yeah, when you combine genres like science fiction and horror, it could really go either way. But Under the Skin utilizes both of those genres so fresh and so unique that it makes it such an amazing feature from A24. And Jonathan Glazer, I recently read a report regarding his next film. I have no idea what it's about, but I'm very excited because this film was really, really spectacular. And I thought this would be a film I wouldn't like. See, there's a sad story behind this film. So when I saw this, I did see it in theaters. I felt bad because I dragged my dad to come see it with me, and I know that this isn't my dad's cup of tea. I know this isn't his cup of tea. My dad's very mixed on the art house, pretentious films. He's so mixed. Sometimes he likes them, sometimes he doesn't, and this one he didn't like. He said, look, it was beautiful looking, and ScarJo was amazing, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. I felt bad for dragging him to go see it. He's like, I didn't hate it or anything. It was just just wasn't for me. But I was blown away. And, Scarlett Johansson, I've always loved her. I love her as Black Widow and everything, but she's fantastic outside the MCU. She's really thrown out a lot of strong performances, whether it be Lost in Translation or I was recently rewatching Match Point, which was one of the films that she did with Woody Allen. Fantastic film. And she's great in it, but this is definitely the best performance that she's given in her whole career. She's given a lot of strong performances and capable performances, even in the crappy films. Even though Ghost in the Shell was terrible, she was good in it. She did stand out from the horrible mess that it was. But this one is unlike anything she's done. The character that she plays alone is just so well fleshed out. And the score, Mika Levy, she also did the score for Jackie, which was, in my opinion, the best score of 2016. This woman needs to continue scoring for films. Her scores are so haunting and powerful, and the thing that I admire about this one, it's a very mind-bending score, and the same went for Jackie. Jackie was a mix of historical score but also very psychological score, which clearly this composer or songwriter, I think she sings songs as well, utilizes very well. And the entire film, the way they made it too, the fact that like Scarlett Johansson's really the only actor in the film and everyone else was real people, I thought that was really well handled. And the fact of the matter is, usually when filmmakers do that, it could really go either way whenever they cast non-actors to be in films. And even if their role is small, it could really be good or bad. But everyone that was in this, including that facial deformed guy, was great. It was just wonderful to see this kind of stuff. And I really wanted to put this on my list, but I just couldn't because of all the other love that I have, all the love that I have for the other films on this list. And Under the Skin is really incredible, like Chase said. Like, give it a watch, and you may not like it, and you know what, that's fine, whatever, but just give it a watch just to see the amazing filmmaking that went into this. So, going into my number 2, this is definitely more, it's a depressing film, but it's definitely more normal than Under the Skin. Even though this is a very heartbreaking film to watch, like, it's absolutely realistic in every sense of the way. My number 2 was a film that came out in a year where I wish I put it on my list, but I didn't get the chance to because I didn't see it before the year ended. Chase did. I remember he put it super high on this list. I think it might have been his number 2 or 3 of that respective year. My number 2 A24 film is Room. And I know Chase adores the fuck out of this. I think it was his number 2 or 3. I remember it was 2015. I remember The Revenant was his number 1. And his number 2 or 3, it was either this or Inside Out. I remember those 3 were in his top 3.
I think it was Inside Out number 2, and then Room was 3.
And see, that's a great list. Like, those 3 films, and the fact that they're all different in their respective ways, that just shows how versatile Chase is with his taste in film. And that's great. And Room, obviously, I feel like a lot of people have seen this one because this is definitely one of A24's more, like I said, normal films, but that's not necessarily downgrading on the film because it's still incredible. So Brie Larson plays a woman, and she's trapped underground. She's been underground for 7 years, and during that course of the 7 years, she had a kid named Jack, who was played by, at the time, the newcomer Jacob Tremblay. And, it's just them wanting to get out. And, the thing that I've always admired about Room is that it's basically 2 different movies in one movie. The first half is a slow burn drama, and then the second half is also a drama, but it's more spoken. It's more, I don't know how to describe it. Like, I feel like Chase knows what I'm talking about, what I'm trying to say, but like
the first half is very reminiscent of like a kidnapping type of like horror scenario, but I would actually argue the second half, when they actually break out of that, is actually more horrific because they have to adapt to society post this kidnapping. That's actually more terrifying to me because they don't know how to cope with it.
Exactly, especially her. She doesn't know how to cope with it either. And Brie Larson, she won the Oscar for this, and rightfully so. This performance was absolutely riveting. It was fantastic. It's definitely one of my favorite, if not my favorite, lead actress performance of the decade so far. I've always loved Brie Larson before this movie. I mean, everybody, all film lovers know of a film called Short Term 12. If people have not seen Short Term 12, please do yourself a favor and watch that film. You know why? Because that showed Brie Larson's acting chops. She was already in some films. She was in some smaller roles, like she was in Don John. She was in 21 Jump Street. But Short Term 12 solidified her acting stats, and then Room rose it up like really high, obviously, to the point where it led to her winning an Oscar. And now she's well known to a lot of people. I mean, look at her now. She's gonna play fucking Captain Marvel, which is great. That's awesome. And her character is just so real. Like, it's very reminiscent of all the other like kidnappings that have happened, and it's great that she portrayed this character so well. And then Jacob Tremblay, given in my opinion the best child performance of the decade so far, like he was so good, and I was so scared when I was walking to this movie. I'm like, I don't know how this kid's gonna be. Being like the co-lead of the movie, I don't know if he's able to carry this movie, and he did such a brilliant job doing it. And this kid, when he made the movie, he was only 8 years old. 8 years old. This kid had better acting chops than some people that are in their fucking 40s. Let's think about that for a second. Like, this kid was that good and really should have been nominated for an Oscar. He was very close to being nominated. The fact that he wasn't nominated was honestly a crime. Because this wasn't just Brie Larson's movie. I mean, yes, she was the lead character, but it was also Jacob Tremblay's movie, too. They shared the movie equally. It follows both their characters. Their characters are both crucial to the whole story. and it's amazing. Lenny Abrahamson directed this film, and the thing that really surprised me was that he was coming off the very lighthearted but also very depressing film Frank, where Michael Fassbender plays a guy wearing a machete head, and that film is unbelievable. It's great. He has a film coming out soon called The Little Stranger with Domhnall Gleeson, which looks great. Heard great things about it. Cannot wait to see it. And Room is just, it's just amazing to see a film like this. And whenever you watch a film surrounding the kidnapping, it could definitely be over exaggerated at times and very sappy and Lifetime like, but this is so real, so grounded, so raw, so powerful. A lot of emotions go through this movie. In the second half of the movie, something happens to Brie Larson's character. There's a point where you think this character is just somewhere else. And you know what? It terrified me. When I saw this movie, I saw it with my sister and my parents. This is the kind of film that we all love to watch. Like, we all love these kinds of films. And I remember we were all just crying. I don't usually see my dad cry during movies, but he was in tears. He was in tears. My dad, I've only seen him cry during a few movies, and I remember both of them, the two in particular, were both 2015 movies. It was this and Creed. Creed made him bawl his eyes out. My dad's been a huge Rocky fan since he was a kid. And, you know, this movie, when you're a parent, it kind of speaks to you. Like, obviously, I'm not a parent, but, like, this kind of spoke a lot to my parents, and I'm sure a lot of parents were able to relate to it, too. It was just so powerful to watch this film. It made me... I was just so blown away by it, and, you know, I watched it. I remember watching it when it came out on Blu-ray, and it still got to me a lot like it did the first viewing. And these characters were so fleshed out. This screenplay was great. Emma Donoghue, who ironically wrote the book, wrote this screenplay. And usually, whenever authors pen their screenplays, it could be a mixed bag, but this is a great screenplay. It's similar to how Gillian Flynn brilliantly wrote the Gone Girl script, which, you know, was based on her book. And I wish this film got more recognition. I mean, it got a lot of recognition when it came to, like, reviews and film festival awards and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, Brie Larson got all the recognition, but I think Jacob Tremblay should have got more recognition. The screenplay should have gotten more recognition. The entire film was absolutely riveting. And, you know, even though it may not be the happiest film in the world, it kind of ends on a happy note. It's a very beautiful film. One of the most powerful films of the decade so far. One of the best films of the decade so far. Room is terrific, and if anyone has not seen it, please check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much said everything. I remember watching that in the theaters for the first time. I was blown away because I had seen Short Term 12, but I wasn't like, you know, oh, Brie Larson, I'm just following her every move. I really wasn't until this movie. You know, once you see Room, you realize just how good she is and how good she can be because she's still young in her career. 2015 was a really great year for her because she was also in the huge comedy hit and probably the only comedy hit Amy Schumer will have. She played Amy's sister in Trainwreck. So, yeah, she had a really good year that year, and she won the Oscar, and now she's about to be one of the biggest superheroes in the MCU canon. And also,
she's going to be Marvel's first lead-in female superhero, and that's a big deal.
Exactly. So, you know, she's still young in her career, and it's only going to get better from here. So, okay. So, just like with Hereditary, I believe that this movie is going to cement itself as a classic in its genre. Joel and I both agree that when you look back on this year, 10 years from now, this is the movie that's going to define that year. I am usually mixed on romance films, and usually they're either going to be bad, okay, or really great. Now, some of the best ones that I have had the pleasure of viewing and cry my eyes out in the corner of my room would be, ones like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, or like A Blue Valentine, or Spectacular Now even, or even the Before trilogy with Sir Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy. But if I had to pick a movie that, like I said, is going to define that year, which would be 2016.
I know where you're going with this.
And you're going to look back and go, what is a good romance film of the early 2000s? If you don't pick Moonlight, then I don't know what you're thinking. Moonlight,
and that is my number one as well.
Yeah, it's one of those films to where I always remember for several reasons. One, it's a damn good movie. Two, I remember when Joel and I saw it in October of 2016. I turned to him, I said, "That's the best movie of the year. Nothing's going to touch it." And guess what? Nothing touched it. It is also going to be an infamy with the infamous Oscar ceremony with the mix-up. I mean, it's always going to be remembered in the Academy. Always. Whether it be on a critical level, a technical level, Academy ceremony level, it's always going to be remembered. It is a mixture of a coming-of-age film and a romance film and someone battling with their sexuality and what it means, especially for this character. I don't recall seeing a gay black person that comes from a poor neighborhood as the main character. I've never seen it. And the fact that Barry Jenkins chose to focus on that as the main character, and we get to see this main character as a kid, as a teenager, and then as an adult, is just simply beautiful to watch. Where we have this kid who doesn't know what sexuality is. He doesn't know what's going on. He feels funny. He tells, Mahershala Ali, who kind of takes him in under his wing, which, by the way, he won his Academy Award for. He tells him, like, just please be you, like, be a good person. And then when he's a teenager, he's bullied at school, and we see stories about this, about how gay people are scrutinized by their communities and they're being bullied, and it's just absolutely disgusting. And when you see it in the movie, you feel for him because you're like, I love Chiron so much, I just want to help the guy, but he keeps getting pushed down in life. And then I'm going to just tell you guys the whole movie because whatever. And then when he is an adult, we see that he has been through a lot. He tries to change his image, but he is gay and he tries to repress it, and he shouldn't. He should be open about it and embrace it. And then when he encounters a lifelong friend, they start to reconnect and they start to form a little relationship. And it is one of the sweetest things you will see in a romance film, because you're rooting for Chiron this whole time, and then when him and Kevin at the very end, have their kiss, like, you shed a tear because it's like, that's love, man. That is love. And you just want two people that love each other to just get it on and have fun. It's like, it's so magical to see. And just a quick little plug, because I'm watching the show right now. Andre Holland plays Kevin, and he's in Castle Rock right now. It's a great show, by the way, on Hulu. Anyways, but not only that is it a great coming of age from child to adult, and finding your truth in your sexuality and not be afraid of it. It is also a remarkable three-way casting where the child, the teenager, and the adult are all three great. That is rare. And they all kind of look alike, which is great on the casting director because it keeps it consistent with the growth of the actual person. And then on top of all that, Mahershala Ali gives an Oscar-worthy winning performance, particularly at the beach when he is talking to Chiron. And then also, I know that she got nominated, but Naomi Harris is crazy good in this movie. Like, she is just too good as his abusive mother, and how she kind of has her arc in the movie, and tries to redeem herself. I don't say the P word often, but it's a perfect movie. There's nothing wrong with this movie. It from the directing, the way that Barry Jenkins keeps it grounded, but also kind of ethereal with the cinematography, and makes it look gorgeous, but also has this like little grit at the same time to just make it like just bitingly real. He does that. The writing is impeccable. The acting is top notch. It's just a really, really good romance film. And when people look back on 2016, especially, not to bring politics in this, but considering that was right before the election, a lot of people are going to be, trying to find that hope in film that year, and like that love and that embracement. And this is the film to do it. And for a company that was only 3 years old, it won Best Picture. I don't think people understand how great that is and how monumental that is. The fact that A24 ran away with it. And like I said, it will always be an infamy because La La Land did win it for like 2 minutes, and then the whole mix-up happened. And of course, it also gave us Barry Jenkins a win as well. And it's so great to see on the trailer for If Beale Street Could Talk, Academy Award winner Barry Jenkins. So that's what this movie brought us, and it is a classic for sure. And I think it changed the game in terms of romance and leads, and really kind of hitting a trifecta with being black, gay, and from a poor neighborhood. It's never been done before, and obviously Bryan and I cannot relate because we're not black, we're not gay, nor are we from, a bad neighborhood. So we can't really connect with the character on a relatable level, but we can also connect with them because we are human and we understand that this is a person discovering his sexuality like Bryan and I did growing up during puberty. We can relate to that. And so that's where our empathy kind of connects with them. Like, I just want this guy to find love. I want him to be true to himself. That's where we can connect, even though we ourselves are not what the main character is. You can still find a way to connect. Definitely the best film A24 has done. I've said my piece. If you have not seen Moonlight, what are you doing? Hopefully, within the next year or two, it'll add it on Netflix with all of its other movies. But Bryan's right. As of right now, it's just 2015 and below. But hopefully, in the future, it will be on streaming if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, you pretty much said everything. I mean, Moonlight it wasn't my favorite film of 2016, but it was very high up on my list. That year we had a lot of really good stuff, Oscar-worthy stuff from like this, Manchester by the Sea, La La Land, and we had a lot of really good underrated films like A Saint Street, for instance, which was my favorite film of 2016. Moonlight just really captured a lot of things so beautifully, and the thing is, when you watch any romance film, you always get worried that they're gonna over-exaggerate and it's gonna be sappy in Lifetime, and everything here was so powerful, and just it showed that Barry Jenkins, this guy, I mean, I know he may have filmed before this, but this really was his big film that led him into his that led him to us. A lot of people didn't really know who he was before Moonlight, and Moonlight put him on our radars, and because of that, it's just great that we could see films like his next one. And it's great that films like this could be so inspiring and so powerful and so mesmerizing for anyone, really, regardless if you're black, regardless if you're gay, regardless if you grew up in a poor neighborhood. Moonlight's able to find things that will just make you feel something. It will warm your heart, but it will also kind of break in some sense. Like with the stuff that happens in this film, it just, you manage to cry all the time. Like, this movie is so fucking powerful and so real and just so timely. Like, that's the thing with a film like this. Even though it may not have taken place in current day, it is a very timely feature. With what's happening in the world nowadays, with how people are in the world, this is a very timely feature that anyone, regardless if you're gay or not, can relate to. And, going into this movie, I didn't think I was going to find any relatability to it, but I did. I found so much relatability to it, even though I didn't grow up in the poor neighborhood, or I wasn't gay, or I'm not black. Like, I was able to find so much that I could relate to in this movie. And, it's like you said, the performances, this screenplay, I'm so happy it won, because it truly was the best adapted screenplay of 2016. In my opinion, the two best screenplays were this and Manchester by the Sea. And look what happened. Both of them won the Oscars in their respective categories. And that's saying a lot usually. Whenever I have a favorite screenplay of a year, both of them don't usually win. But the fact that both of them ended up winning, that's saying a lot. And I'm glad this film won Best Picture. Like, I really loved La La Land a lot. I loved it. I adored it. I had a great time with it. But when it won Best Picture for 3 minutes, I'm like, all right, whatever. I felt like it should have been Moonlight. Then Moonlight won. I'm just like, oh my god. I remember when I was at an Oscar party, and with all my friends, film friends, and other majors from my school, and people were excited when La La Land won. But then a lot of people were also excited when Moonlight won, because you know what? It truly was. And even if it wasn't your favorite film of 2016, it was the best picture of 2016. And I don't usually say that with films that aren't my favorite. But the fact that this wasn't my favorite, and it was, in my opinion, the best picture of its respective year, that's saying a lot. And all the stuff that it won, like Mahershala Ali's performance, even though the performance wasn't big in the movie, it was very crucial to the story. And I'm glad he won the Oscar, because you know what, this movie set a lot of records when it won all of its Oscars. I mean, let me tell you something, like there's a lot of stuff it won. Like Mahershala Ali winning the Oscar, he became the first Muslim actor to win an acting Oscar, and that's great. This was the first LGBTQ film to win the Best Picture Oscar. It was the first film with an all-black cast to win Best Picture. The film's editor was the first black woman to be nominated for an editing Oscar. This film set so many records. Regardless if you think it's a great film or not, this is a very important film, influential film. And yes, it's already a classic, but it's going to go down as a bigger classic as the years come by. Whenever people are going to make their top 10 lists of this decade, Moonlight is going to be in so many of those top 10 lists, maybe even the top 5. Hell, it could end up being their number 1 film of the decade. Like, that's how incredible Moonlight is, and it still is incredible. It may not be the most rewatchable film ever, but honestly, there are times where I could put this on, just watch it just for the filmmaking. Like, this is the kind of film that I love to watch for filmmaking. Like, it's beautiful. I think it should have won cinematography. I think it should have won editing. There were many Oscars that this film should have won, and you know what? As great as Mahershala Ali is, and the fact that she was nominated, Naomi Harris really was incredible. She had gotten a lot of recognition for it, but also, when you look back at all 3 actors that played Chiron, the kid, the teen, and adult, equally perfect. All of them were terrific. I'm glad that this film, I don't think it won the Best Cast Award at the SAGs. It should have. I don't know what won that year, and if anyone could tell me, just let me. I think it might have been Hidden Figures. It was a good cast, and Mahershala Ali was ironically in that film, but this was the best cast assembled in 2016. And I agree with you. That sequence with Chiron and Kevin in the third act of the movie is incredible. And also, something that most films don't do, this film utilizes the 3-act structure beautifully, brilliantly, seamlessly. It's so well executed. Moonlight really is the best thing that A24 has stapled their name on. And you know what? If any of you guys have other ones, it's fine. They've made a lot of great films that could be listed as A24's best project to date. But this, hands down, is the best film that they have made, and that is why it respectfully is our number ones. Boom.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing more to say. And just to go on your point real quick on it being kind of an unconventional love story, it doesn't rely on like the sappy cliches. Believe it or not, and I'm about to ruin it for you guys, I'm sorry, Chiron doesn't actually get love until like the last 5 minutes of the movie. Like he doesn't get that like affection until the very, very, very end, where him and Kevin just kind of warmly embrace each other, and then the movie just ends. And so we have to go through all the struggles and all the downs of this guy's life just so he can have that one moment, and it's so worth it. It is so worth that moment to see him go through all this and then at the very end, get some, almost like closure on this like hellscape that he's had with him growing up with his mom and him, being bullied about his sexuality. It's just that one moment at the very end is just worth all the trouble. And just know that...
and then and also the last shot of the film is the best final shot of 2016.
Yeah. So I mean,
that last shot was really beautiful, and it made me cry.
It just goes back to the whole. I don't like to say the P word often, but just thinking about it from start to finish, it's a perfect film. And
it is a perfect film. Yeah, there are so many films that A24 have released that may be considered perfect, so that's why we're going to go into our honorable mentions. And there's a lot, people. There are a lot of great films that this studio has released, so I'm going to go first and talk about mine, because, like I said before, Chase has definitely seen more A24 films than me, and that's not a problem, but there are just so many films that I haven't seen yet, but the ones that I have seen that are honorable mentions include Lady Bird, fantastic coming-of-age film, my second favorite film of last year, and it was very ironic that my top two films of last year starred Timothée Chalamet, that being this and Call Me By Your Name. The Disaster Artist, my favorite comedy of last year, James Franco delivering a stellar performance as Tommy Wiseau. The fact that the movie about the making of The Room was as captivating and as endearing as it was, that's saying a lot. The Florida Project, another great film from last year. William Dafoe giving a fantastic performance and showing poverty in a very realistic way. Just amazing stuff by Sean Baker. Swiss Army Man, a very unconventional story. No one ever thought that they would love a movie where Harry Potter played a foreign corpse, and god damn it, it was so entertaining and so sweet. Him and Paul Dano had amazing chemistry. I don't know why I'm referring to him as just Harry Potter. It's Daniel Radcliffe, bitches. And he's amazing in it. Like I said, Spectacular Now and Hereditary, two films I really wanted to put on the list. And, we talked about them a lot, and they're great equally. The Witch, another great horror film that they have released. Just amazing stuff. Even though you can't understand a word that anyone's fucking saying in the movie, it's still so fucking good. Amy, a powerful documentary about the late great Amy Winehouse, like really haunting stuff, really powerful stuff. And it, for someone who really didn't know her music very well, I was absolutely mesmerized from start to finish. The End of the Tour, Jason Segel given hands down the best performance of his career. It's a performance that should have gotten recognition. David Foster Wallace, depressed, isolated, quiet human being, Jesse Eisenberg. He played David Lewinsky, a writer interviewing him and everything, and it was really, really amazing stuff. Under the Skin, like I said, great stuff. Ex Machina is the shit. It is so fucking good. Contains one of the best dancing scenes of all time, and a lot of people don't know this because they didn't see this movie. Before Star Wars came out, Domhnall Gleeson and Oscar Isaac actually made a film together. Yes, General Hux and Poe Dameron made a film together. And, that's great. And it introduced us to the wonderful Alicia Vikander. Green Room, fantastic thriller. I rewatched it the other night. My roommate hadn't seen it. He thought it was great. I think Patrick Stewart should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I know that may be going a little too far. But the fact that you saw fucking Professor X as a neo-Nazi, a guy that's in charge of a club run by those people, it's amazing stuff, and it was absolutely captivating, and it had a great performance from the late great Anton Yelchin, rest in peace, one of Hollywood's finest young actors, gone too soon. 8th Grade came out this year, Bo Burnham's directorial debut. Absolutely powerful film, really realistic. A lot of us didn't like middle school or 8th grade for that period alone, but this film really was... It was not an easy watch for me. And yes, 8th Grade may not have been the best, but there are some personal reasons as to why this film wasn't the best. I think I told him to Chase and Joel. I don't want to disclose them on the podcast, but it was a great film, and Elsie Fisher should get recognition come this Oscar ceremony and all the other award ceremonies. And Bo Burnham, one of my favorite stand-up comedians, the writing and directing that he put into this was absolutely terrific. The Killing of the Sacred Deer, or A Sacred Deer, excuse me. Now, this was the follow-up to The Lobster, which is another A24 film. I'll talk about that later. But The Killing of the Sacred Deer was absolutely terrifying from start to finish. Really great stuff. Colin Farrell, Nicole Kidman, I never thought that the somewhat annoying kid from Dunkirk would give a great performance, and he was absolutely terrifying here. Just great stuff. The one of the most terrifying shots to me was when he ate the huge pile of spaghetti. That was absolutely terrifying, and I just loved the film. While We're Young, Noah Baumbach directed this. It had Ben Stiller, Adam Driver, Amanda Seyfried, and Naomi Watts. Really great film about a couple that can't really find their youth, and then they meet this young couple, and then they start finding their youth again. It's really great stuff. If you love Noah Baumbach, definitely check this one out. And then I got two more honorable mentions, and I know Chase isn't super big on these films, and that's okay. Spring Breakers, I don't think it's the greatest film in the world. It's certainly not the worst film I've ever seen, but I really admire the electric vibe that Harmony Korine put into this, and it gave us a really terrifying performance from James Franco as a drug dealer. He was great, and it kind of showed to me that, Selena Gomez and Vanessa Hudgens are more than just the Disney love bugs. So, that was really interesting to see the stuff that they were doing, especially Vanessa Hudgens. I never thought I would see the girl from High School Musical do the stuff that she was doing. And my last honorable mention is It Comes at Night. I know Chase wasn't too big on this film, and you know what? That's okay. A lot of people weren't big on this, but I was really engaged by the slow burn atmosphere that was thrown in this film. I loved Joel Edgerton in it. He's one of my favorite actors. I'm a huge admirer of Riley Coe. I know she's not like the biggest actress working today, but I love her in pretty much everything that she's in, and she's insanely beautiful. And if Elvis was still alive to this day, he would be My Granddaughter Is Something Special, and I'm proud to say that. So those are all my honorable mentions, and I would like to hear Chase's honorable mentions and his thoughts on some of these movies too.
Yeah, so pretty much because I'm not going to list them all. There's too many, but the ones that you all said, agree with, and then I would also add like A Ghost Story.
See, I still need to rewatch that because when I saw the film, I didn't hate it. I just wasn't big on it, but I do want to watch it again. I was somewhat riveted, but then at the same time, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this one, but I do want to watch it again. And I know you and Joel fucking adored the film. I think both of you put it on your top 10 list. And yeah, I definitely want to rewatch it.
Yeah, director David Lowery did, I think, a pretty good job self-containing this, almost like, self-crisis movie of someone, trying to grieve the loss of a spouse. And I thought it was just really well done. On a technical level, story level, it was definitely one to be remembered from last year. Also, Free Fire, fun one.
I was so mixed on that one. I didn't hate it. I was just.
It's got some really great sound design. It's straight to the point.
The sound design is incredible. Like, sound's my go-to thing here at film school, and it's great. The sound is great, but I don't know. I just really wasn't into the movie that much. I don't know.
It's a fun one. You don't gotta think about it too much. I wasn't too big on this one, but I thought it was a pretty decent one. Morris from America, the one with Craig Robinson.
I haven't seen that one.
It was fine, but I liked him in it. Of course, The Lobster, I remember seeing that for the first time at Fantastic Fest. That was awesome. Yes, Amy, Tusk. I like Tusk. Sue me.
Tusk was very good. I totally forgot about that one.
Tusk, and then last one I'll mention because Bryan mentioned everything else. Locke. I liked Locke.
Locke is great too.
With Tom Hardy. So those would be my honorable mentions.
Yeah, and like to talk about the ones that I'm not really a big fan of. Like I said, like I don't hate A Ghost Story. I think what happened was it was one of those instances where I saw it so late and I was overhyping myself for it because the trailer. I still love the trailer to this day. I love Casey Affleck. I love Rooney Mara, and I like the director. I was really blown away by Pete's Dragon, and I liked his other film too, and I cannot wait for the next film he's doing with Robert Redford and Casey Affleck. I'm so excited for that. But I don't know, I wasn't really like too big on it. The Blaine Rained was another one I wasn't really big on either. I like Sofia Coppola. I love Lost in Translation. I really liked The Beguile from last year, and I love Emma Watson because I'm a huge Harry Potter nerd, but I wasn't really too big on that one. Like I said, Free Fire, mixed bag on it. I love everybody in it. I love Brie Larson, Armie Hammer, Charlotte Copley, Cillian Murphy, The other guy, what was his name? Jack Rymore, right? He was in it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and he was good in it too. Okay, so this is going to be a controversial thing. I didn't like The Lobster. I honestly thought it was the most original film that came out in 2016, and that's great. But honestly, I thought it sucked when they left the hotel. I thought it went downhill, and I know that's a controversial opinion, and you know what? That's fine. I get it that a lot of people were really high on this movie, and that's great. That's awesome and everything, but I just really wasn't big on it. I think Colin Farrell honestly should have been nominated for Best Actor. I think he should have gotten an Oscar nomination. Rachel Weisz was great. I loved the performances in it. I thought John C. Reilly was awesome in it. The lisp that he had was so goddamn funny, and it was great to see. But honestly, I just really wasn't all for where the film was going after they left the hotel. Like, do you think the film was better when they left the hotel, or do you think it got worse but still being good after they left the hotel?
I mean, I didn't mind it. Obviously, the hotel stuff was better, but I thought them, going into the woods was still, good to watch. I thought as a dark comedy mixed in with like this weird Twilight Zone science fiction-y premise, I thought for the most part it was delivered well.
I totally get that, and maybe I do need to check it out again because of how much I adored The Killing of the Sacred Deer, and I think the guy's next film, The Favorite, looks really good, so I'm just hopeful I will rewatch this again soon. I believe I will. I never saw The Sea of Trees, but I heard it was absolute trash. Matthew McConaughey, Naomi Watts, Ken Watanabe. It should have been a great movie because it sounded like a great movie, but then apparently everyone at the French Film Festival, I'm not going to disclose the name because everyone knows what I'm talking about, hated it, so never saw De Palma, the Bryan De Palma documentary. One honorable mention that I forgot to mention, I don't know if you saw it, you probably did, 20th Century Women. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I like that one as well.
Yeah, that one was really good. In terms of other dishonorable mentions, like, I haven't seen a lot of the bad A24 films. To be honest, I've kind of avoided their not so good work, so like I can't say anything about Dark Places. I can't say anything about Barely Lethal. I can't say anything about Life After Beth. Like, I can't say anything about those films because I haven't seen them, so I can't really solidify my opinions on them. But I know Chase could, because I know Chase has seen a lot of films from A24 that are considered bad, but he's also seen, I remember there was one film that came out a few years ago that Chase was really, really hyped to watch. I still haven't watched it yet, and I want to. I remember he saw it, and he said, Bryan, this film was fucking trash. But he'll talk about it in just a bit. But yeah, in terms of A24 films that I don't like, there's not many I dislike. So yeah, talk about the ones you don't really care for.
All right, so I didn't really care for Spring Breakers. I didn't really care for It Comes at Night. I didn't really care for American Honey.
That's the one I was talking about.
I also didn't care for Woodstock, which is one of the most wasted things I have seen.
Didn't you fall asleep during that?
I did. All right, but the worst thing they have ever done, because even me that didn't really like American Honey or Spring Breakers, at least that has some artistic value to it, and it actually has, decent cinematography. Barely Lethal is the worst thing they have ever slapped their name on. There is nothing redeemable about it, all the way down to its terrible green screen. There is nothing about that movie that works, nothing about it technically that works. The performances are bad, the writing is bad, everything is bad. Nothing is redeemable, and I gave that one a straight up F, and I still stand by that one. So that's it for me.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, nor do I plan on ever watching it. So like to talk about the ones that they have coming out, because they have quite a lot coming out. The biggest one for this year has to be, without question, mid-90s, which is the directorial debut of someone I never thought would ever direct, Jonah Hill. And the trailer for this was so fucking incredible that I cannot wait for it. It's one of my most anticipated films for the latter part, for the next for basically the fall of 2018, and I hope that it's great. And I know that it probably, I don't want to assume it's great, but I know because A24 is smart with their choices, and for the directorial debuts that they've released this year with Hereditary and Eighth Grade and now Mid-90s, I guarantee that this is going to be quite the great year for directorial debuts. Like, you agree that Mid-90s looks incredible, right?
Oh, yeah, and I think that Jonah Hill is going to have one hell of a month because 3 weeks before that, Maniac comes out. And
yeah, that looks great.
Yeah, that's gonna kill on Netflix. And so he's got that. He's got this movie. He's going to be making a comeback. And a lot of people keep forgetting that, yes, he is the guy that held a cooking spoon up to his pants in Superbad and called it his junk. But this is also the guy that has two Oscar nominations. A lot of people keep forgetting that. He is an Oscar nominee. And so he is going to have one hell of a year. And, to be honest with you, I'm looking at all 6 of them that I have yet to see. I actually want to see all 6 of these movies that A24 still has, whether it be A Prayer Before Dawn or The Children Act, Mid-90s, Under the Silver Lake, Slice, or even Climax. I'm interested in all of them. Even though some of them might be trash, I still want to see them. But if I had to pick one, I'm going with the neo-noir epic from David Robert Mitchell, Under the Silver Lake. I think that one looks really great, and I'm looking forward to that one the most.
Yeah, I was really excited for that. Then they pushed the release back like a few weeks before it was even coming out, and I was really disappointed in that because even though I wasn't like the biggest admirer of It Follows, I really, really admired the filmmaking that went into it, and I love neo-noir stuff. I love Andrew Garfield. I love Riley, and them to this movie is a smart decision, so I'm really excited for Under the Silver Lake. Yeah, Slice, it's funny because Slice is one of those films that looks like something that like Troma would release, and I don't know, I'm kind of into it. It's just kind of funny to see Chance the Rapper, of all people, leading an A24 film, so it could really go either way. It could be bad, it could be good. The Children Act, I haven't watched the trailer for it, nor do I want to. I want to go into that film as blind as possible. The only thing I know about is that it has Emma Thompson, and that's it. A Prayer Before Dawn, I think I told you this. I was very mixed on the trailer, and I do like Joel Cole. He is no stranger to A24. He was in Green Room, but he was also in a fantastic episode of Black Mirror called Hang the DJ. So I guess I'll give that a chance. I do want to see Never Going Back. I want to see Hot Summer Nights just because of Timothée Chalamet, but I heard it wasn't the best movie. But I would only watch it just for him because, he's high on my radar right now. Climax, I don't really know much about, but then when you look at the films that are coming out supposedly next year or beyond, they have so many films coming out. One that I'm really hyped about, and we don't know anything really about except for who's directing and who's in it, Uncut Gems, that's from the Safdie brothers. It's going to have Adam Sandler in it, and you know what? A lot of people were very polarized when this casting was announced, and I'm going to say something right now. As crappy as most of his films are, Adam Sandler can act. If you guys have seen Punch Drunk Love, Reign Over Me, or even recently the Meyerowitz stories, this guy is an exceptionally talented actor when given the right material. And honestly, this Uncut Gems, the fact that it's distributed by A24, I don't think anyone ever expected Adam Sandler to be in an A24 feature. I certainly didn't. But this could be the film where, like I said, I have no idea what it's about. I have no idea what it's even going for. I know it's a drama, so but it could be a film where possibly Adam Sandler finally gets his long overdue first Academy Award nomination. And, that's something I really wanted to see because I've always liked Adam Sandler. I mean, sure, his comedies aren't the best, but he's always been a talented dramatic actor. And even when he's in the right kind of comedies, he is good. Like, he is funny, but he just hasn't been the best comedies. I'm obviously excited for The Lighthouse, which is the follow-up to The Witch, directed by Robert Eggers. This is going to be a black and white dark fantasy horror film. It has Robert Pattinson and William Dafoe, two people who aren't strangers to A24. Like I said, they were in 2 of A24's biggest hits of last year. And, Robert Pattinson had done stuff with A24 before. Obviously, like Chase said, he was in The Rover, which had him and Guy Pearce. But I'm really excited for that. Waves, which is Trey Edward Salt's next film, is followed to It Comes at Night. And even though It Comes at Night may not have been the best for everybody, this film has an exceptionally talented cast on its plate. It has Lucas Hedges. It has uh, Calvin Harrison Jr., who played the kid in It Comes at Night, but it also has Sterling K. Brown, who is just a fantastic actor right now. You know, if you guys have watched The People vs. O.J. Simpson or This Is Us, he's exceptional. He's great in everything that he's in. And you got a bunch of other films coming out. Ari Aster's follow-up. And then there's a bunch of other films that I don't want to know anything about. So really, A24 has a lot of great stuff coming out. And what are your thoughts on the films that they have coming out?
I mean, it sounds like they're in the business of, if you made a great movie for us, or if we picked a great movie from you and it does well, then we want to work with you again. Because it looks like they're returning to a lot of, directors that they've worked before, some of them they haven't worked before, and hopefully they can continue to have a working relationship with. So, as long as they keep working with masterclass artists, I could care less who they work with.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. So, like, in the end, A24 is possibly our favorite distribution company in the business today. They constantly release great stuff, and they're going to continue releasing great stuff because they have a lot of stuff coming out. And I'm really curious to know how they're going to do at this Oscar ceremony, or any award ceremony to begin with. But the Oscars in particular, like, we could see a lot of nominations this year for films like 8th Grade, Hereditary, First Reformed. Mid-90s could be something really Oscar-worthy. We'll have to see how it goes. I mean, they've released a lot of great stuff, but they're never going to stop. A24 just continually shows that they're the best. No one's ever going to top them. And if someone does top them, bring it on. Just bring it on.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing more to say. They are the type of studio, distribution company, brand that just mic drops. And then that is my perfect ending to them, is that they are just a mic drop place where they don't have to explain anything. They just release stuff and they step aside.
Yep. So those are our thoughts on A24. And that is the end of this episode of Film Fragments. Thank you so much for everyone that listened. Chase, man, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Honestly, if I had anyone else on for this topic, I don't know if they would have been as strong as you. So I really appreciate you coming on, man. It's just great to have you on.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's like you said, we've done this before, so it's not like we're just strangers at meeting each other and talking about stuff. But no, it was a lot of fun talking about one of my favorite people in the biz right now.
Yeah. So, Chase, where could the people find you online?
Well, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, it's @RealChaseLee. I have a podcast that I co-host with Joe Copeling, one of our friends, and he's a great writer and one of the people I look up to film critic wise. So it's Reel Me In: a movie podcast, and then of course on YouTube it's Real Chase Lee, and then you'll find pretty much everything there.
Yeah, I'll put all the links in the description below, everybody, so you guys can follow me on Twitter at Bryan_Sudfield, and follow me on Instagram at Bryan Sudfield. Subscribe to this page, share this around. Like I always say, I'm not going to tell you guys the next topic, because honestly, at the time of this recording, I have no idea what the fucking next topic is. And you know what? That's the beautiful thing about Film Fragments. We talk about random things. It's unplanned. And sure, that may be a crazy thing, but you know what? We're all film lovers. We all are passionate about what topics we talk about and just film in general. So really, guys, thank you so much for listening. And I will see you guys next time for the next episode of Film Fragments. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.